I couldn't tell you the exact moment it started. There was no thunderclap, no siren, just a shift. It was like walking into your own apartment and noticing something's off, but not being able to name it. The couch hasn't moved, the lights are still warm, but the air feels colder. She'd been leaving earlier for work lately, always in a rush. Morning, babe, with a kiss that landed somewhere between casual and calculated. Her eyes never quite met mine anymore, not the way they used to, and when they did, they seemed to bounce off like glass instead of skin. We've been married 11 years. No kids by design. We both wanted freedom, travel, business, dinners with friends, the occasional lazy Sunday, watching old crime documentaries. It was good, not always thrilling, but stable, comfortable. And maybe that was the problem. Over the past 6 months, something had crept in between us. We'd fought more, sure, mostly about stupid things. Dishes, phones at the dinner table, work events I wasn't invited to. I chalked it up to the usual wear and tear of marriage. But deep down there was a drumbeat I couldn't shut off. I remember one night, it was a Thursday. She came home, wearing a perfume I hadn't smelled on her before. Not overpowering, just foreign. Sweet, spicy? She said it was a free sample from work. I nodded, but a voice in my head whispered, "Since when does HR hand out perfume?" The next morning I watched her from the kitchen window. She walked briskly to her car, phone already in hand, tapping away, smiling at something on the screen. I wanted to trust her, I did trust her. But that smile, it wasn't for me. I wish I could say I brushed it off. I wish I'd gone for a run, or cracked open a beer and moved on. But I didn't. I sat on the edge of our bed, phone in hand, staring at the screen for a long time, waiting for something, anything. That's when I realized I wasn't looking for proof. I was looking for the courage to admit that something was wrong. And once that seed was planted, it started to grow. The first real crack came on a Tuesday. I'd gotten home early, canceled meeting. Traffic was light for once. I figured I'd surprise her. Maybe cook dinner, light a candle. Pretend we were still those two people who used to send each other memes during meetings. Her phone was on the counter when I walked in. That in itself wasn't unusual, but it was unlocked, screen lit up, open to a text thread with someone named Leave. Leave wasn't someone I knew, but I'm not the jealous type. At least I didn't think I was. Still, I glanced at the last message. Oh my God, he's clueless. Face with tears of joy, wine after yoga. That was it, just one message. But it hit me like a gut punch. I locked the phone, didn't read further. Didn't need to. There was laughter in that text. Laughing at me when she got home an hour later. I played it cool. We talked about her day. She told me a story about her boss being a control freak. I nodded, laughed at the right parts. But inside, I was scanning her every word, every pause, every glance. Was that story real? Was her boss even in the office today? When did I become the kind of man who doubted his own wife over a text message and a weird perfume? That night in bed, I stared at the ceiling while she scrolled her phone beside me. The soft glow lit up her face. She was smiling. I turned away. I told myself it was nothing. I was being paranoid. People say dumb things to friends all the time. Maybe I really was clueless about her day, her stress, her needs. Maybe I'd gotten lazy, but then the next day, I noticed something else. Her calendar was wiped clean. She used to color code everything: workouts, meetings, brunches, dinners with me, now just blank space. I asked if she'd switched apps. No, just haven't updated it lately, she said, almost too quickly. My heart was starting to pound at odd moments, like during coffee or brushing my teeth. This slow dread, this static in the chest. I still hadn't said anything. What would I even say? Hey babe, I think you're hiding something also. Can you pass the salt? But the silence was eating me alive. I told myself I'd give it one more week. Just one. Maybe I was just in a weird headspace. Maybe work stress was bleeding into everything else. Maybe I was just afraid of things getting too quiet. But when the weekend came, she said she had a networking mixer at 9 p.m. And that's when something inside me finally stirred. suspicion, and for the first time, I didn't try to push it down, I let it in. She stood in the doorway, wearing a dress I hadn't seen before. Deep burgundy. Sleek hugged her in ways that were hard not to notice. She'd done her hair real effort curled, pinned, sprayed. "You look nice," I said casually, like I was commenting on the weather. "Thanks," she smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "You going with someone from the office?" She grabbed her purse. "Ya, Jenna?" "Maybe Amanda. It's at that rooftop place on 8th. That rooftop place. I'd suggested it a year ago for our anniversary. She said it was too crowded. I gave a small nod, late for a work event. "Isn't it?" she shrugged. "That's how these things go. You know how this industry is. Networking doesn't keep bankers' hours." She leaned and kissed me light, polite, like we were siblings at a holiday gathering. And then she left. I sat there for a good half hour staring at the door. My hands were sweating. I wasn't even mad. Not yet, just suspended, like my life had been set on pause, and I didn't know how to unfreeze it. Then I did something I'd never done before. I checked our shared location app. It had been part of our urban safety thing, keeping tabs when we were jogging, taking Ubers late at night. A city couple habit. Her location showed no signal. Not at the rooftop place, not with Jenna. Just a gray icon in a gray city. It could have been a fluke. Bad Wi-Fi, a battery issue. But then I remembered something. She'd turned off her location once before. The weekend her cousin came to town, or said she did. She hadn't mentioned her cousin since. I tried to distract myself. TV, a drink, scrolled headlines. But every sound from the street had me flinching. Every buzz on my phone felt like it might be her. At 11:37 p.m., she texted. "Still talking shop, don't wait up." I didn't reply. I sat in the dark living room, drink in hand, and listened to the hum of the fridge. The only thing in the apartment. Still honest. She came home at 1:08 a.m., shoes in hand, hair wind blown. Smelled faintly of gin and something sharp, cologne. "Maybe Europe," she said. Surprised. "Couldn't sleep," I replied. She walked past me into the bathroom, then the bedroom. No explanation, no details, just silence, and the click of a door shutting behind her. That night I didn't sleep either. But not because I couldn't, because I wouldn't. Not until I figured out what the hell was going on. The following Monday I went to lunch with Mark, a friend from college who'd stayed in the same city. We weren't close, but we kept in touch. Shared a few friends, hit the occasional poker night. I needed neutral ground. Somewhere I could float the idea without sounding paranoid. "So how's Sarah?" he asked. Biting into his sandwich, I hesitated. "Busy, a lot of events lately." He nodded. "Yeah." Jenna said they've been swamped at the office. That made me pause. "You talk to Jenna often?" "Sometimes," he said. "We grab coffee here and there. She mentioned Sarah's been kind of distant lately. You know, not just from you. From everyone." There was a moment of silence. Then he added, "Careful now. You okay, man?" That's when I realized. I must have looked worse than I thought. I gave a short laugh. "I'm not sure. Just feels like something's off." He looked at me for a long moment. "You ever talked to her about it?" I tried. "She dodges. I don't want to come off like some insecure husband." Mark leaned in a bit. "Listen. If something's off, don't ignore it. People talk even when they don't mean to. People like who." He shrugged. "Nobody said anything directly, just vibes. Sarah used to be pretty open. Now she's like Fort Knox and that mixer last weekend. Jenna said she left early alone." I felt something tighten in my chest. "She told me she stayed late." Mark raised his eyebrows. "Maybe she did, maybe Jenna left early. Who knows?" But we both knew that wasn't how he meant it. When I got home, Sarah was already there on the couch, phone in hand. She glanced up when I walked in, smiled faintly, then went back to scrolling. I watched her for a beat too long. That smile too measured, too trained. My mind kept going back to what Mark said. She left early alone. Someone was lying, I just didn't know who. But I was done playing blind. That night when she was in the shower, I grabbed her phone, locked. Not unusual, but now the passcode had changed. The passcode change hit harder than it should have. We'd never had a rule about sharing passwords. We didn't need one, we were open by default. I knew hers, she knew mine. We didn't pry because there was never a reason to, until now I stared at her phone for a moment, then set it back down exactly where I found it. I could hear the water still running. She sang sometimes in the shower. Not tonight. The next few days passed like a slow-motion car crash. We barely saw each other. She left earlier than usual. Claimed work was nuts. Came back late. Said she was helping with a campaign launch. Her eyes were always on something else. Her phone, her laptop, the TV, anywhere but me. Thursday night I made us dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta, garlic bread, a little wine. I lit a candle. Thought maybe it'd snap us back. She walked and saw the table and froze. Oh, this is nice. But her voice didn't sound touched. It sounded like someone caught off guard. Like someone realizing they forgot an anniversary. We sat and ate in mostly silence. I asked about her day. She gave answers that sounded like quotes from LinkedIn. Finally, I asked, "So, anything you want to tell me?" Her fork paused midair. What do you mean? I don't know. Just feel like we haven't really talked lately. She gave a polite smile. We're just both busy. That was her answer, that was it. Busy after dinner. She offered to do the dishes. I let her. I went to bed early. Or at least pretended to, laid in the dark listening. She stayed up for another hour. I could hear faint typing. A soft laugh at one point. When she finally came to bed, she barely touched the mattress. Stayed on her side, didn't even say good night. I waited until I heard the rhythm of her breathing change. Then I got up, walked quietly to the living room. I had an idea, a long shot. Her iPad, we'd synced our devices a while back, mostly to share playlists, manage calendar stuff. It was in the drawer under the coffee table. I opened it, no password. The messages synced automatically, and within seconds there it was. A name I didn't recognize. Several messages. Some deleted, some not. I tapped, scrolled, and my heart started to race. One message read, "You looked amazing last night. Could barely keep my hands off you." Another, "He doesn't know. Don't worry, I'll see you soon." The screen blurred. I blinked twice. No anger, not yet. Just a cold, hollow realization this wasn't a maybe. This was happening. I sat there in the dark, iPad in hand. Messages burning into my brain like scars. I read them again and again, hoping somehow the words would change. That maybe I was misreading. That he doesn't know meant something else. That it wasn't what it clearly was. But denial has limits. This wasn't flirtation. This wasn't playful banter. This was a full betrayal, and here's the thing. They didn't even use code. No cute nicknames. No clever euphemisms. Just direct, casual intimacy, like it was normal. Like I didn't exist. She had a whole life happening outside of me. At one point I heard a creak. I froze. Then silence. I kept scrolling. Found photos? Nothing explicit but intimate. A selfie of him smirking, a picture of her. Same dress from the networking mixer. Taken in a bar mirror, not ours. I recognized the background. It wasn't that rooftop place. And the dates, they lined up. The night she said she stayed out late networking. She was with him that night. I waited up like a fool. She was in his arms. I don't know how long I sat there. My legs went numb, my eyes burned. Eventually I put the iPad down, and I did something I never thought I'd do. I took out my phone, opened the voice recorder, and hit record. I started talking, not to anyone. Just to document, to hear it out loud. Like proof of my own sanity. She's cheating on me, I said. Voice low. I have the messages. The dates. The pictures. I don't know how long it's been going on. I don't know who this guy is. But it's real, it's happening. And I knew it. I knew something was wrong. I stopped. Listened back. My voice sounded dead. Not angry, not even sad. Just empty. When I got back into bed, she stirred slightly, rolled over. Mumbled something in her sleep. I watched her for a moment. How could someone sleep so peacefully? After lying to my face, I stared at the ceiling. The next morning, I'd have a choice: confront her or wait, and waiting, as much as it killed me, might give me the one thing I didn't have yet: leverage. The next morning, I made coffee. Same way I always do, 2 mugs. Hers with almond milk. Muscle memory. Habit has a strange kind of dignity when your world starts falling apart. She came into the kitchen wearing her work blazer, hair still damp from the shower. She looked radiant. Alive. Meanwhile, I felt like I hadn't slept in a year. "Morning," she said. "Morning," I replied. Handing her the mug, she smiled. "Took a sip. You're sweet." And I almost laughed right there. Sweet? That's what you call someone you lie to daily, someone you sleep beside. While texting another man good night, I didn't say anything, not yet. My face calm, my voice level. Inside I was in flames. She kissed me on the cheek before grabbing her bag. "Busy day, late meeting." "Don't wait up," I nodded. She walked out the door like nothing was wrong, as if we weren't living in separate realities. That day I didn't go to work. I called in, faked a cough, said something vague about a flu. What I needed was time to think. Plan. Steady my hands, I went back to the iPad. I took screenshots, backed up the messages to my laptop. I wasn't being vindictive. I just didn't want to doubt myself again. I needed the receipts, in case she tried to flip it on me. She was good at that, spinning stories, making me question my memory. Gaslight with a smile. At noon, I met up with Mark again. This time I told him everything. His reaction is slow. Heavy sigh. "I was afraid of that." "You knew?" I suspected. He said Jenna mentioned a guy. Not by name, just that something felt off. She didn't want to stir the pot. I clenched my jaw. "Well, the pot's boiling now." He looked at me for a moment. "What are you going to do?" I didn't have an answer yet. What I wanted to do: call her office, drag her name through the mud, blow up her double life. What I needed to do was still forming. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about reclaiming the ground beneath my feet. No more doubt, no more waiting. I was done playing the fool. It was time to take off the mask and make her look me in the eye. That night I didn't wait for her. I left the apartment just after 7, drove a few blocks to a small cafe with outdoor seating. It was the kind of place we used to go to when things were still good, before everything felt like performance art. I ordered a coffee, then pulled out my phone and I texted her. "Hey, just realized I left my charger in your bag this morning. Can you check it?" Was bait, and I knew she wouldn't fall for it completely. But I needed a reaction. I needed to watch her lie in real time. 15 minutes later she replied, "Didn't see it. Want me to pick one up on the way home?" Smooth, casual. No guilt in the typing speed. No tell in the punctuation. I stared at that message, phone in hand, while couples around me laughed over drinks and shared fries. The world hadn't stopped, but mine had shifted completely off its axis. I wanted to respond, to scream into the void, but I didn't. Instead, I went home early and waited. She walked through the door at 10:14 p.m. Same line. Late meeting. Sorry. I watched her kick off her heels, hang her coat. Her expression gave nothing away. I stood there in the hallway, arms crossed. "I need to ask you something," I said. She paused, turned. "Sure, what's up?" I took a step closer. "Are you seeing someone else there?" It was the moment, the make or break. You can tell a lot in the space between a question and its answer. She blinked, then tilted her head slightly. What? It wasn't shock. It was performance. "Don't lie," I said more quietly this time. I know. A beat passed. Then another. Her shoulders dropped just a little. Then she looked away. "What are you talking about?" she said, voice suddenly tight. I read the messages on the iPad. "You forgot it since." That was when her face changed. A flicker of panic, not fear for me. Fear for her for being caught. "I didn't mean for her," she started. "But I cut her off. You lied to me for weeks. Maybe months. Every night you kissed me, every time you smiled. Was it all fake? She opened her mouth, but no words came. I wasn't yelling. I didn't need to. The truth was loud enough on its own. She sat down on the edge of the couch, like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. I stayed standing. The silence dragged. She stared at the floor. I stared at her. Eventually she said it wasn't serious. That was her first line of defense. I scoffed. That's supposed to make this easier. She looked up, and for the first time, I saw something in her eyes that resembled guilt. Or maybe it was just the fear of consequences. Finally catching up, it just happened. I didn't plan it, she said. I folded my arms. You planned the nights out? You planned the excuses. The fake meetings. That's a lot of planning for something that just happened. I was lonely, she said. I almost laughed. We live in the same apartment. Eat the same food. Sleep in the same bed. She looked away again. You weren't really there anymore. That landed hard, not because she was right, but because she thought that made it okay. So your solution was to find someone who was. I asked. I didn't go looking. He just made me feel seen. And I needed that word, seen. Like I was invisible. Like I was a ghost living in my own life. I walked to the window, hands on my hips, trying to breathe through the rage. The kind of rage that doesn't explode. It simmers slow and cold. When were you going to tell me? I asked. She didn't answer. Were you just going to keep this going? Let me play husband while you lived a double life? No, she said. Voice thin. I was going to end it when? Before or after your next late meeting? Another silence. I turned back to her. I'm not stupid, Sarah. I noticed everything. I gave you so many chances to just tell me the truth. She wiped at her eyes, but I didn't move. I wasn't angry out of heartbreak. I was angry because I doubted myself for so long. Gaslit by smiles and half kisses and calendar lies. You broke something, I said finally, and I don't know if it can be fixed. She opened her mouth to speak, but I walked past her into the bedroom. I needed air, I needed space, and maybe I needed out. I didn't sleep that night. She stayed on the couch. I heard her crying once. Soft, muffled. The kind of crying meant to be heard but not addressed. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The quiet louder than any fight we'd ever had. My thoughts ran in circles. Not just about her cheating, but about what that said about us. About me, about how long I'd been lying to myself. By morning, the apartment felt like a crime scene. Same furniture. Same paint. But everything looked different under this light. Her coffee mug was still where she left it. Her scarf still hung on the hook. But it all felt like it belonged to someone else. She came into the room around 7 a.m., eyes puffy, hair a mess, holding her phone like it might save her. I canceled my meetings, she said. I nodded. Said nothing. I don't know what you want me to do. I looked at her. Neither do I. She sat at the edge of the bed but didn't get too close. Do you hate me? I took a long breath. No, I don't hate you. I just don't recognize you. Her eyes welled again and I had to look away. Not because it moved me, but because it didn't. That's when I knew. Something inside me had cracked clean through. Some thread between us had snapped. And I wasn't sure I wanted to tie it back together. Why him? I asked. She didn't answer right away. He was easy. He listened. He made me feel appreciated. I nodded slowly, and I didn't. I don't know, she said. Maybe you did, but I stopped feeling it. That was probably the most honest thing she'd said in weeks. I stood up, walked past her, grabbed my jacket and keys. Where are you going? She asked. I don't know, just out. She stood to panicked. Are we done? I turned in the doorway, looked her dead in the eyes. I think we've been done for a while. We just didn't want to admit it. Then I left, not forever. Not yet, but enough to finally breathe again. I spent that day walking. No destination. Just sidewalks, noise. Strangers' faces. It felt good to blend into the city, to not be the husband or the betrayed, or anything at all. I ended up at a small bookstore I hadn't been to in years. I didn't go in. Just stood outside watching people come and go, listening to the traffic and the low hum of conversations around me. For the first time in days, I felt weightless. Later I sat in a park with a coffee, cold by the time I drank it. I watched a guy play fetch with his dog. A woman read a paperback under a tree. Life kept moving and all I could think was, how did I get here? Not just the affair. The whole thing, the years of coasting, of assuming that comfort meant commitment, of mistaking proximity for connection. Somewhere along the way we'd stopped growing together, started orbiting instead, close enough to pretend we were still one thing, but drifting slowly apart. And the worst part, I let it happen. I'd ignored signs, brushed off gut instincts, called myself paranoid instead of perceptive, gave her the benefit of the doubt because I loved her, because I wanted to believe in us, more than I actually believed in her. I stayed out until after dark, ignored her texts for total. Are you okay? Please come home. We should talk. I'm sorry. I love you. I didn't answer. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't believe those words anymore. Not from her. By the time I walked back into our apartment, she was sitting at the kitchen table. Same dress shirt from earlier. Makeup gone, face bare and tense. She looked up when she saw me. I didn't know if you were coming back. I wasn't sure either, I said, dropping my keys into the bowl by the door. She stood, took a step toward me, then stopped. I'll sleep on the couch, she said quietly. I nodded. She turned off the light on her way out of the kitchen, and just like that, we were two people living in the same space, speaking different languages. The silence was no longer shared, it was a wall. The next morning I called in sick again. I wasn't ready to go back to emails and meetings and fake smiles. Not while my life was still bleeding quietly in the corners. Sarah left for work without saying much, just a muted bye at the door, like we were polite roommates. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table and opened a blank notebook. I started making two lists. One side, reasons to stay, the other, reasons to leave. At first it was hard, but then the pen started moving on its own. By the time I stopped, the leave side was 3 times longer, and every reason felt earned. I wasn't angry anymore, not in the fiery, yelling way. This wasn't about revenge or punishing her. This was about finally seeing the truth and deciding whether I wanted to keep pretending. I called Mark, told him everything. He didn't say much, just listened. When I finished, he said, whatever you decide, just make sure it's for you. Not for how it look, not for what anyone else expects. You get one shot at peace. Don't waste it. That hit me that night. I made dinner for myself. Simple stuff, chicken, rice, some frozen vegetables. It tasted fine. Ordinary. But I realized something halfway through eating it. It was the first time I'd cooked for just me in years. No asking what she wanted. No trying to impress. No checking if I used too much salt. Just me feeding myself. It felt strangely clean. Sarah got home late. She walked in quietly, like a guest in someone else's house. No perfume. No excuses. She sat across from me at the table. Can we talk? She asked. I nodded. I ended it. She said with him. It's over. I looked at her, calm, measured. Was it ever just him? She paused. Yes, just him. I didn't respond, not because I believed her, but because it didn't matter anymore. She looked like she wanted to cry again, but I didn't move, didn't comfort. I'll give you whatever space you need, she said. I nodded again. She stood slowly, hesitated like she might say more, then walked to the bedroom alone. That night I slept on the couch. Not because she asked, because I needed distance. Physical, emotional, spiritual, and because I knew sometimes the only way to heal is to finally stop pretending that broken things can hold weight. 2 weeks passed. She tiptoed. I stayed silent. Our lives became a quiet negotiation of space and politeness. She offered to sleep in the guest room. I let her. We exchanged logistical updates, bills, groceries, work schedules, but the intimacy was gone, and I didn't miss it. The first Friday of those 2 weeks, I took myself out to dinner. Solo table for 1 steak. Medium rare, a cold beer. It felt strange at first, like I was living someone else's life. But halfway through, I realized I was content. I didn't have to be the husband. I didn't have to pretend, I just had to be present. And that was enough. A friend I hadn't seen in a while texted me that night. "You doing okay? Heard some stuff from Jenna." I responded, "Getting better every day." And I meant it at home. Sarah tried. She was around more, offered to cook, clean. Check in, but it all felt like a cleanup job. Too little, too late? I wasn't cruel, I didn't lash out. I just stopped engaging on the level she wanted. She started leaving me notes. "Thinking of you, hope your day's okay." Dinner's in the fridge, I read them. Then tossed them in the trash. It wasn't vindictive, it was survival. One night I caught her crying in the guest room door. Slightly ajar. She was holding her phone, staring at something, maybe a picture. Maybe an old message. I stood there just watching. Not out of malice. Just observation. That was when it hit me. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was done, not angry. Not vengeful, just done. The next morning I told her, "I think we need to separate." She didn't cry, not right away. She just looked at me like she'd been bracing for it. I was hoping we could fix it. She whispered. I shook my head. "Some things don't get fixed. They get learned from." She nodded slowly. And for once, finally, she didn't try to talk me out of it. That was the day we started packing. Not just boxes, but years of pretending. We divided everything, like two people dividing up a failed startup. She took the desk lamp she loved. I took the records. The coffee table was hers. Her parents gave it to us as a wedding gift. I didn't argue. The wall started to look bare. The silence got louder. I found old photos. Beach trips, anniversaries. Selfies from better times. I didn't cry, I didn't rage. I just stared at them for a while, then slid them into a folder labeled past, and left it in her pile. A week later, she moved out. No dramatic farewell. No weepy hugs. Just a tired goodbye at the door. Her last bag in hand. "I really did love you," she said, not looking at me. I nodded. "I know." She left, and that was it. No collapse. No explosion, just space. At first, it was disorienting. The apartment felt hollow. Every drawer seemed too big. I caught myself reaching for the plates. 2 mugs, but slowly life began to fill the gaps. I reconnected with old friends. Went back to the gym, read more. Cooked for myself, not to impress anyone. Not to perform, just because it felt good. To nourish something. I got promoted at work. Started running in the mornings again. Signed up for a class on photography. Something I hadn't touched since college. People asked how I was doing. I told them the truth. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm not where I was, and that's progress. One afternoon, I walked past the cafe, where I'd first confronted my gut feeling. Same chairs, same umbrellas. Different me, and I thought, this is what clarity feels like. Not clean, not painless, but real, and real beats perfect every time. Because now I wake up knowing exactly who I am. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid to be alone. -1 months later, I moved. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. New place, new view. A little smaller, a little quieter. Just mine. I didn't keep much from the old apartment. A few books. Some cookware. My grandfather's old watch. Everything else donated, sold, or left behind. Like a skin I no longer needed. People always say time heals, but they never talk about the part where time just gives you space. To think, to hurt, to grow, that's where the healing lives. I went through phases. The overthinking, the second-guessing, the temptation to reach out, but I didn't, and every time I resisted, I got stronger. I started journaling, not because I'm a poet, but because getting it out of my head and onto paper felt like sweeping out a room that hadn't seen daylight in years. I started laughing again, real laughter. The kind that surprises you. I learned I could be my own anchor. One night, I got a text from an unknown number. Just said, "Hope you're doing okay." No name, didn't need one. I stared at it for a second, then deleted it, not because I was bitter, because I had nothing left to say. Closure isn't a conversation. It's a decision. I'm not perfect. Still get quiet when people talk about trust. Still double take when I see a couple holding hands, like nothing could ever break them. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm not waiting, I'm not pretending. Now when I look in the mirror, I see someone who went through the fire and came out cleaner, not charred. Someone who lost what he thought was everything and found something better himself.